here feels 100% confident about your financial life? Yeah, not that many of us. So I decided that I wanted to write a book in about 2005. And it took me this long to write a book. It's sort of embarrassing. So I don't know who said it earlier, like writing a book is hard. It's really hard. Chris makes it look easy, and many of the people up here make it look easy. I had this really weird experience because I am a career changer, like a nutty career changer. So I started out as a commodities option trader on the floor of the Commodities Exchange. Did anyone ever see Trading Places? Remember that movie? Yeah, right? That was my first job on Wall Street. It was insane. It was like a rugby scrum meets a fraternity party. I mean, forget about Me Too. The most disgusting things happened to me on that floor. And what was very apparent was early on, I realized, wow, I thought all of this was about a formula, a statistical analysis, and it was all emotional. And I could see it in live color every day. And I was a terrible trader. I hated risk. And so I really was not very good at it. But I learned a lot, and I made a few bucks. And I ended up going into a different part of financial services because, as my father says, who was also a trader, you know, if you don't like the short hours and the stress, at least you should like making money. And I was like, well, I didn't like making money that much. I liked helping people. So I went into investment advising and financial planning. And I started to write, and I started a radio show, and that's how we got clients. And then someone saw me from CBS, and that's a long story. And now I'm at CBS, and I do a lot of stuff. So what I realized was that we are so freaking screwed up about money. It is insane, because money is where we put all of our emotions. It's this concrete thing. That's why couples fight about money. It's much easier to fight about money than sex. So you might as well start to figure out what is it about this topic that's making us so crazy. And when I think about the people who are in the business and they start saying, you gotta count how many lattes you drink. I'm like, really? That's the problem? How many lattes we drink? Come on! And I'm not gonna stop drinking lattes. I think I had like 15 cups of coffee today. This city's insane. This is crazy. This shit's insane. Like, I mean, in New York, it's like you have a cup of coffee, it's okay, but then we move to whiskey. I don't know what's going on with you guys. All you do is drink coffee. So I'm like, all right, this is crazy. So we got to stop worrying about drinking lattes, and we have to start to really understand what's missing from this conversation about money. And it is that I kept running into people who would call my radio show and my podcast. They would pull me across in the hallway at CBS, former clients of mine when I was in the client service business, and they were so smart. They were so much smarter than I was. It's just that I'm not effed up about money. I have different effed up things, not about money. Again, next book. And so what I really understood was there were these incredibly bright people, and they're making the dumbest decisions. Why are these smart people making dumb decisions? And I couldn't quite figure that out. And so I was sitting with my friend who's like a book agent, like whatever, because it's like queer, not that I have like a book agent, but I do. And he's like, why are you writing this book? I said, because I don't really want to write a book about, people should stop drinking lattes, and I don't want to write a book about how people could get rich quick. He's like, what do you want to write about? I said, I want to write a book about why we keep doing the stupidest freaking things, even though we're really smart. He's like, good, that's your book. Get me 13 ideas right away. So I came up with 13 ideas right away. Okay, there they are. You'll get that. The book's downstairs. And, okay. You like that? So I want to start off with this is how I wanted to start the book, but then my publisher's like, no, you have to start with like a real important thing. So I'm going to start it here because this is what I really wanted to start the book with, which is we are obsessed about money. And the reason we are is that we tend to be guided by two specific emotions. Now, earlier in the day, you heard someone say that fear can really be motivating. Not with your money. It's actually very bad with your money. And what I come to learn is there are two emotions when it comes to money. There is fear and there is greed. Gesundheit. And And what you learn is that we can sometimes bounce between the two. And what will often happen is that your family of origin will instill these money emotions in you between the ages of 10 and 20. So you are fucked if you are 22 and haven't dealt with your money issues. It's all done then. No, I'm just kidding. You're good. I'm going to save you. Don't worry. We're good. So these are your two emotions, okay? Fear and greed. Now, you know what happens. You know this. You see that the stock market has plunged, and you fear something, and you want to do something with that fear. So you say, I'm going to sell everything, or I'm fearful about money, so I will not actually figure out how much money I have or how much debt I have. So your fear keeps you immobilized. Meanwhile, your greed takes over. It's like the greed devil comes over, and it's like 2 years ago, and you find out that like this idiot you knew from high school made $1 million in Bitcoin. You're like, God damn it. I want some of that. He's an idiot. I could do that. And you buy some Bitcoin, even though you have $45,000 of student loan debt. So that's your greed. And underneath it all are these amazing cognitive biases that are so strong. I interviewed a lot of people for the book who were studying this. And what they tell me is in behavioral economics, in behavioral finance, in psychology, there are certain ways that we are wired that make us very bad at long-term investing. Here's what we're good at. Let's say, for instance, a lion came across this stage. You would get up, pop your hamstring, and get out of here real fast. That is a short-term risk. You see it, you feel it, you know it, you move, right? Here's what you're bad at. Someone like me, you hear me on TV saying, you really need to save a little bit every single month for your retirement because you're going to need to save money for retirement. Now, the risk of not saving 40 years in the future is so diffuse, you don't do anything. And so what you need to understand is that these cognitive biases can lock you into really bad patterns. But wait, I have the answers. Some of them, not all of them. And what you need to know is if you recognize these biases as you go through various aspects of your own financial life, you will find something amazing. Do you know what it is? You will take control. You will be able to say, of course I fear this. Of course I feel the greed pull, but I'm not going to fall prey to it. You acknowledge the feeling, but you don't necessarily act on it. And that is huge. Just to know this. I could speak for an hour on this one slide, but I have to move on. But it's true, if you know this is all you need to know about money. You don't need to know, statistical analysis to understand how to invest. You need to know that sometimes you feel fearful, sometimes you feel greedy, and if you put a system in place that kind of pulls those things out of your decision making, you will be successful. All right. So here's something that I learned. I used to get all these calls from people, and they would say, I just bought this thing. What? What kind of thing? I think it's an insurance policy, but it may be an annuity, and I'm not sure what I bought. I said, well, you bought something you don't understand? Well, I didn't want to insult the guy who was trying to sell it to me. Okay. Now, so here we have dumb things 1 and 2. You buy stuff you don't understand, or you take advice from the wrong people. Let me give you an example of something you might want to stay away from. Let's say you're an insomniac, and for some reason you turn on cable TV. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, and someone is hawking gold bars. And you, just in that moment, feel very insecure. And you say, you know what? That seems like a really good idea. I'm going to buy some gold, because the world is coming to an end, and gold will protect me. Now, here's your big tip, your big takeaway. If it's advertised on late-night TV, you shouldn't buy it. You really shouldn't. And there's a corollary to this, which is that you can sometimes take advice from the wrong people. Now, okay, I am a certified financial planner. There's plenty of people who have like financial designations. But what became clear to me is people didn't understand there were all different kinds of financial professionals. And what happens is you're sitting in front of somebody. I was with my friend Christine the other day, and we were sitting in a bank together, and I could see she just had like fear washing over her. And I said, you know what? I'm going to ask the questions because she's sitting in fear. She can't ask the questions she needs to ask. So when you're fearful, what sometimes happens is you clam up and you don't ask the question that you know is sort of right in the back of your mind. You're so nervous about your money and your finances and your retirement and your kids' education and all that is swirling around that when someone says, here, this is the blankety blank thing, you hear wah, 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 and you sign it, and 3 years later you say, what the hell did I just do? So fear is the enemy of understanding. So I implore you to ask questions. I tell a funny story in the book. Well, I think it's funny, you may not. But my dad was in the hospital. He is dying, okay? He is in NYU, he's in the hospital. The doctor walks in and says that they want to do another test. And so I said, oh, well, is that test really necessary? And my father shoots a laser beam at me like he's pissed. And the doctor walks out and my father says, how could you have insulted him like that? He is telling me I need a test. I kind of looked at him like, Dad, I just asked a question. And sometimes when we feel like we're in a somewhat infirmed position, uninformed position, we get fearful, we don't ask the questions. So when you are confronted with any financial product, decision, advice, you are allowed to say, hey, what's this cost? Because a lot of people don't ask that question. What are my alternatives? How quickly could I get out of this thing and go into cash? How liquid is it? What are the tax consequences? My favorite, what's the worst case scenario that happens? It goes to zero, you lose all your money. Okay, at least I know that's the worst case. And the F word. Does anyone know what the F word is? Don't say it. We'll be very in trouble if you say it. It's called fiduciary, or as someone liked to say to me after I got off television one day, you really put the douche in fiduciary, Jill. Thank you, thank you. I do. So there is a standard of care in financial services that says, I, as the financial professional, have to put you, the client's interests, before mine or my company's. That's called the fiduciary standard of care. Do you know that half of financial professionals do not have to adhere to that standard? Half of the thousands of people who are out there giving advice and selling product do not have to put you first. That is unconscionable. And so therefore, anytime you're with a financial professional, the first thing you say is, are you held to the fiduciary standard at all times? That's important. Now, if they're not, it doesn't mean this is like Mr. or Mrs. Scumbag trying to hose you. It means that you need to filter the information through a different way. You need to say to yourself, oh, this is a sales pitch. This is not necessarily in my best interest. Are we doing okay? I said fiduciary already, so that's good. All right. So a lot of people in here are already taking care of all their financial life. Now, let's just say you've got a bust-out cousin, because it's not you. You are in control, and you feel good, right? Give yourselves a round of applause. There you go. But just in case you have a bust-out cousin, which everyone has, or brother-in-law, you want to know that if you want to really distill your financial life to a very easy calculation, you say, have I tackled my big three? What are your big three? You pay down your consumer debt, your credit card debt, and your student loans. Number two, you've got an emergency reserve fund. There are a lot of entrepreneurs in here. You know what? If I'm going to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to launch a business, you may want to try to max out your credit cards, but just remember what Humble said, Humble the poet. That was not a good idea, was it? So we want to make sure that you don't go into hock to start the business. You want to have a little bit of a nice emergency reserve fund. It's comfy like an old cashmere sweater. It feels so good. And I like 6 to 12 months in there of your living expenses. You want to try, if you're working at a company and you are lucky enough to have benefits, you want to retire, you want to have a retirement plan contribution that is as much as you can afford. Now, if there is a match, you put it up to the match. If there's no match, it doesn't mean you don't use it. It means that you're going to be a little bit behind the eight ball. You might have to do more yourself, but you want to try to do it. These big three, this is all you need to really be concerned with when you're first starting your financial life, or if you're restarting your financial life. So what I want to be clear about is, especially if you're self-employed, you don't give short shrift to any of this. If anything, when you are self-employed, this is even more important. You don't want to put yourself at risk. And that, to me, is why you really can run a good business. You know when you don't run a good business? When you have $82,000 of credit card debt that keeps getting bigger and bigger. That's really hard to make a good decision in that moment. All right, who went to college here? Don't answer that. I don't want to go to college. I'm just going to take these online classes, get an MIT degree on my own. I was like, are you effing kidding me? That's what I said. I'm in that audience. I saw that big thing of books. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. So I went to college, and that was the whole gay part. But anyway, that was fun. That was good. Yeah, I know. One of the things that I think is quite interesting, though, is a lot of my friends, I don't have kids. I have 2 puppies. They're fabulous, but they don't need to go to college. A lot of my friends have children. And so what they get really uptight about is they say, my parents or I, the combination, we were able to get me through college. And I feel guilty not putting my kids through college. And what you really have to do is give yourself a break. And if you've got college age or high school kids right now, what I want you to know is it really is different right now. College costs have risen at twice the pace of inflation. That is massive. And so the idea that every single kid is going to have to get a college degree, it's just not the right angle to take. So what I really want to be clear about is that, yes, a college degree can be an entry into the labor force right now. However, not all college degrees are created equal. Now, I learned a very interesting lesson when I was pitching this book. This is more of a West Coast crowd-ish and international. So I'm going to use a school on the East Coast, and I'm going to tell you what an idiot I am. I was pitching the book, and I was trying to say, well, like, you wouldn't pay up for, like, a third-tier private college like blank. And I said that name, and the publisher said, I went to blank. Very dumb. Smart person, very dumb. Oddly enough, they didn't bid on the book. But I will say that when I was, so I am 53, and when I was going to school, everybody said, you know, you got to go to the best school you can. It's for the network. And then I started to realize, like, those networks are so different now. You have a network at WDS right now, right? This is a network. You don't need to be in, you know, what's the matter you to get the network of that school. You need to go to a school that's right, or your kid needs to go to a school that's right for him or her. You need to have an education that matches what that kid wants to do in life. You want to be clear, hey, honey, this is how much money we have for college, or we can't help you. And you have to have that conversation when the kid's 9th grade. You don't say the day before the college essays are due, by the way, we can only afford public school after the kid has his heart set on some private school. Have the conversations. I also want to be clear that before you start putting money away for college, every single one of you has to start putting away money for retirement. And the way you can rationalize that is this. You ready? Mean Jill. She told me I couldn't give you money for school. No, this is what you're going to say. You're going to say, you know what? If I put money away for myself, I can take care of myself. And then I will not be a burden on my child in 20 years. That's your key. Take care of yourselves, please. And, you know, I think that there are some kids that are unbelievable. I tell a lot of stories in the book about kids that I meet that are just, they are amazing. My niece just said she wanted to go get an MBA, and you know what? She decided she was going to apply to every single grant scholarship, and lo and behold, she got a 2-year MBA paid for. And there are real go-getting kids. That's great. You as the parent, do not work harder for that kid's education than he or she is going to work for that education. Okay? Who wants to buy a house? You can't buy a house here. I just went to look around. I was poking around. Dumb thing number 5 is you buy a house when you should rent. Is this blasphemy? Whose parents are whispering to them, well, I wish you wouldn't rent. I really wish you could buy, right? You know what? Buying's not the best thing in the world. This is a myth. This is a myth of the American dream that is perpetuated. Do you know what home ownership is? It's a pain in the ass. It's a pain in the ass, okay? You know what rent is? Rent is not throwing money out the window. Rent is freedom. Rent is opportunity. Rent is fantastic. And real estate, I know you're in a hot market. Wherever you are, real estate always appreciates, except when it doesn't. You know, when your mom says to you, oh, we just, the neighbor down the street, they sold the house for $500,000. We bought our house for $50,000. And you know what you can say to yourself? That's inflation. That happened anyway. It's not like the housing market did something special. Housing prices appreciate at the rate of inflation over the long term. You want to buy a house, that's great. Run the numbers, make sure you know what you're doing, and don't presume, oh, I'm going to buy something and then I'll just rent it out because that's so easy. It's not. And if you're great at it, fantastic, but go in with your eyes open. All right, who wants to become a great investor? You ready? You got to invest in yourself. However, if you want to start to actually invest, this is how simple it is. This is it. This is 5 steps. First things first. Do not start investing in wackadoodle stuff until you've done your big 3. That's easy. Number 2, you're going to create a game plan of some sort. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to invest for retirement. I'm trying to invest for this other thing. I'm trying to invest to save money for my business. Whatever it is, put it down on paper. Number 3, once you have a plan, you're going to put your assets in different buckets. There's some cash, there's some stocks, there's some this, da, da, da. That's it. There's not more than that. When I was with my friend at the bank, he had 18 different little individual mutual funds, and I said, why? Why do you have all of that? Give me 6 index funds and go to sleep at night. Keep it simple. I have been around the biggest, baddest investors in the world, and you know what they all say? Just have a little bit of money in cash, a little bit of money in bonds, a little bit of money in stocks, and don't presume you're going to beat the market. Because you know what? You're not. Because over the long term, people don't beat the market. They just sort of do what the market does, which is great. That's a good thing to know. All you have to do is kind of keep it simple, stupid. It's the most brilliant, easy way to invest. You want to stick to your plan. When do you change your plan? When the market moves? You're not going to do that, are you? You're not going to do that. No, I didn't think you were. You only revisit your plan and change your plan when your life changes. So maybe every few years you just revisit the plan. But what you're really trying to do is actually only change the plan when your life changes. A birth, a death, a divorce, anything life event that would change your plan. I've got a new business. I've got a side hustle. It's going great. Maybe I should look at the plan and see whether or not that side hustle can actually be the generator of income for this family in and of itself. That's when you look at the plan, not when the market's moving around. Anyone here retired? Oh, God bless you. Fantastic. For everyone else, don't worry about this for yourselves because you're not going to make this mistake, but your parents might. I went and talked, when I was writing the book, one of the things I wanted to do is I said, hey, I went to all my friends in the financial planning business. I said, tell me the dumbest thing people do with retirement. And almost to a person, they say people just like retire and they don't actually crunch the numbers. And more importantly, what they do is they indulge themselves too early in their retirement. And I just saw this recently. A friend of mine, a coworker of ours at CBS, passed away. She was 59 years old. And we were all talking at the wake, and they said, we were all saying, oh, you know what? Anything can happen at any time. That's why you should retire early, spend all your money. Okay, hold on, that's hurting my head. I actually said to somebody, what do you mean? Why would you do that? I said, what if you live for another 30 years? She says, what if I don't? Okay, but like the game plan can't be like, I hope I die when I'm 63 and then it works. That's not a good game plan. So what I really want people to know is that it's very easy to run retirement calculations. There are simple formulas that you can apply. There are online calculators. But really the most important thing is if you are on the precipice of thinking about retirement, think about retirement. Don't retire and then think about it. All this stuff is like very boring, right? Oh, she's such a school marm, telling us to plan and crunch the numbers. This is freedom. You do this, and this is freedom. Now, what could be more fun, before I end, than talking about death and estate planning? I mean, God, this is great! Remember that happiness guy earlier today? I'm bringing you all down with me. One of the things that's fascinating is that there are people who know that they have to do things, but they don't do them. So for example, oh, I know I need life insurance, but I haven't done it yet. Or, I know that I need to create that will and do those estate things, but I don't want to. As if you're going to cheat death by not doing this. So what I want you to remember is this. I don't want you to dwell in negativity, even though I am a Northeast Jew, so I dwell there quite a bit. So believe me, I understand. I fall right into that rabbit hole. I dive deep down, and I'm in there. I can think of the worst case scenario always. However, the way that you can really understand this is to imagine that instead of being so fearful of going to that place, confront it and say, okay, of course I don't think anything's going to happen tomorrow, but I would like to go into this place where I think about what would happen if something bad were to occur, how would it impact me and my family? Is anyone negatively impacted by that, especially financially? What can I do to prepare? You do it, and then you don't have to go back again. Not doing it is actually what keeps you trapped. That's the wild thing about so much of this. You know, I was a college athlete, okay? And I got injured. And after I got injured, I went and spent a semester in London, ate my way through Europe, and came back and I was pretty heavy. And I knew that I was heavy. And so I said, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I called my sister. What do I do? She goes, you're going to go to Weight Watchers. That's what you're going to do. And I said, oh, I am? And I went to a meeting, and they are all lining up. This is old school, man, like in a room with a circle of people, and everyone's lining up to get weighed. And I walked out. I was like, I can't do it. It's too much. I don't want to know what that number is. I couldn't bear it. And then I went back a couple days later, and I went on the scale. 167.5. I could have been a heavyweight contender. And I said, okay, that's the number. And they sat down with me, and they said, here's the plan. This is how we're going to help you do this. And your financial life is like anything else. It is like figuring out your time management. It is like going and thinking about your beautiful business. You go there, you create a plan, you make sure that plan is flexible, adaptable, and you try to cut yourself some slack. You are going to screw up. That is what this part of your life is about. There is a lot of uncertainty. But here's what I can guarantee in a world where you cannot guarantee anything. Not doing it will keep you in this very out of control and anxious place. If you just step into this place, it's uncomfortable, you feel weird about it, you're going to change it, it's okay. Go there. Step on the scale. Do not worry. There is a plan. It's like I'm Elizabeth Warren. There's a plan for that. And you know what? It can be scary and it can be daunting, but if you're going through anything like that in your life, you know this. This is such a wonderful community, and I'm so excited to be here and meet all of you, and it's been really nurturing to get the energy from you. Know that you have a community here, and I'm now part of this community, so you've got me. So if you need some help, when I do a lot of speaking engagements, we usually raise the lights up and everyone starts asking me tons of questions. Now I'm not going to ask you to do that today. But what I am going to ask you to do is to consider this. What's holding you back? And if I can help you get over that hump, then I would be more than delighted to help you. So I have to leave early. I'm going to have to take a red eye back to New York tonight because my girlfriend and I are going to be floating in the Pride March in New York tomorrow morning. And so I will not be here tomorrow, but I want you to know that if anyone needs anything, this is me. You can send me an email anytime. I'll be downstairs after the session today is done. I can answer any questions, but you have support. I got your back. Just like Chris has your back, just like Rick has your back, just like everyone here who comes together, we all got each other's backs. This has been an absolute delight, a privilege, and I thank you all so very much. Happy Pride!